Hi, this is Professor Salazar, and today I'm going to be showing you how you can add a file sharing server using Ubuntu and using a tool called Samba. Setting up your server so that you can share files and folders with other users or with other computers. You can use Windows, you can use a Mac. You can access files and folders from this Samba server that's running on Ubuntu. So first things first, I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen. And as you can see, I'm on my Ubuntu Linux operating system that's running on WSL, or the Windows subsystem for Linux. And before we get started, I'm just going to go ahead and run through some updates. So I'm going to type in sudo apt update. And then I'm going to do sudo apt upgrade space -y. And the only reason I'm doing this is because I found 12 packages that can be upgraded. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and install the Samba app on my Ubuntu machine by typing in the command sudo apt install Samba. And it asks me if I want to continue, so I'm going to type a Y to continue. And then I'm going to create a Samba shared directory that's located within my file system. So right now, if I type in ls, I see that I have a folder 1 from a previous video that I recorded. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new directory by typing in mkdir space Samba share. Okay, and this is just any name that you would like to name a share folder. Okay, so right there I created the directory called Samba share. If I type in ls again, I'll be able to see it right here. Okay. Then I'm going to configure the Samba configuration file by typing in sudo nano /etc/samba/smb.conf. And the extension is conf at the end. Okay, so I'm going to type that in, and here's a configuration file for Samba. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll all the way to the bottom, and I'm going to add a new entry. Okay, so all the way at the bottom, I'm going to type in this. I'm going to type in Samba share in brackets. And then I'm going to tab over, and I'm going to type in comment equals Samba on Ubuntu. I'm going to tab again, and I'm going to type in path equals /home/user01/Samba share. Okay, because that's the physical path, or should I say the absolute path of where my share folder is located. And then I'm going to type in read only equals no, and browsable equals yes. So I don't want this to be a read-only folder. I want people to be able to access this folder and be able to drop files and folders in there if they'd like, or maybe be able to edit the folder, or maybe be able to go in there and delete if they need to as well. I also typed in browsable as yes, meaning I want people to be able to browse what's inside the folder. Okay. So in order to get out of here, I'm going to type in, and by get out of here, I mean save your changes and exit. So I'm going to type in Control X to exit, a Y for yes, and enter for the file name. Okay. So right there, I just made changes to the configuration file so that it knows what to do with the folder called Samba Share. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to restart the Samba service by typing in sudo service smbd space restart. And that's going to restart the service for me. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to check to make sure that the firewall is allowing Samba. Okay. And by the way, Samba does run off of port 445. So I can also check to make sure that port 445 is being allowed through the firewall. So I'm going to type in sudo apt install ufw. And it says that it's already there. Like this is from a previous lab, that I have done in a previous recording. I had shown you all how you can use UFW or uncomplicated firewall to set up rules. I'm assuming that it's enabled, so I'm going to check by typing in sudo UFW enable, and it says that the firewall is active and it's enabled on the system startup. So I'm going to type in sudo UFW status, and I see that from a previous lab that I ran, port 80 is being allowed through the firewall and port 22. This is HTTP and port 22 is SSH. I'm going to add the Samba service to this. So I'm going to type in sudo UFW allow Samba. The rule's been added. So if I do sudo UFW status, it shows me that Samba is now being allowed from any computer. Okay. Okay. So the next step is really important, because if you don't add a password for your Samba user, then essentially anybody can get into your Samba shares. And this is really important because you wouldn't want just anybody to be able to access your share folder. What you would want is you would want to protect it with a username and password. So the next step is really critical here. Okay, and all we're going to do is we're going to set up a password for our user01 Samba user. So I'm going to type in sudo smb passwd. Let me make sure I spelled that correctly. Sudo smb passwd space -a space user01. I'm not actually going to tell you the password here, but I'm actually going to type in a password for my Samba user. Okay, it asked me to retype it. And it added user01 as a Samba user. Okay, so now anywhere where I go remotely, let's say, for example, I'm on my Windows system and I want to be able to access my Samba share, it's going to ask me to log in with my password. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and test out my Samba share by clicking on Start and typing in Run. And within this dialog box, I'm going to be able to access my Samba share. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in, and first and foremost, I'm going to go check my IP address on my Ubuntu machine by typing in ifconfig. It shows me my IP address, which is 172.17, or I'm sorry, that's Docker one. My Ethernet address will be 172.21.219.132. So if I go here and type in ///172.21.219.132 /Samba share, I should be able to access this shared folder. Okay, now let's see if this actually works. I get this dialog box now asking me to log in. Okay, so this is going to be my user01 username and my password that I just set up for Samba. And when I hit enter, it opens up this window, which is my file explorer, but now it actually opens up on my network location, which is my Ubuntu's IP address in the following directory called Samba Share. Now, how do I know I'm actually there, right? What I can do is I could type in ls over here on my Ubuntu machine. I'm going to put them side by side so you can actually see them. This is my Ubuntu machine, and this is me accessing the share folder. Okay, so I'm going to change directory into Samba Share by typing in cd Samba Share. And here I'm just going to create a new file, and I'm just going to name it hello. So I'm going to type in sudo nano hello.txt. And within this file, I'm just going to type in something really simple. Hello world. My name is Professor Salazar. Okay. So I'm going to type in Control X, Y, and enter to save it. And if I do ls, it should show up right there. You see it right here. It says hello.txt. Okay. But it also showed up on my Windows computer because I'm accessing that shared folder. So if I double click on this file that shows up on my Windows computer and I double click on it, it opens up the file as a text document called hello.txt. And within the hello.txt file, I see, hello world, my name is Professor Salazar. Now I can go back and forth here because essentially what I'm doing is I'm accessing a shared folder across the network, okay? This is not just from computer to computer, or should I say, this is not just from within my own computer. I'm using the Windows subsystem for Linux. So this Ubuntu machine is running on top of my Windows machine. But I'm also able to access a shared directory from my Windows computer over to the Ubuntu machine. So I'll give an example of this. If I go here and I type in hello all, welcome to my YouTube channel. I hope you click the like button and subscribe. By the way, I'm just making this up right here. Subscribe, there you go. So here I'm going to type in file and save, or Control S. Okay, I'm going to click on save. I want to replace it. And it says that I don't actually have permission to make changes to this. And this is really important to understand, because even though I can access the directory and any files that are in there, I still don't have permission because I'm not as an administrator, and I'm also not the owner of the actual file. Okay, when I access this file share, even though I was accessing it as user01 with my own SMB password or my own Samba password, it looks like I still don't have access to make changes to it because it says here that I don't have permission, and I need to see the owner of the file and the administrator to obtain permission. So that's pretty interesting that even though that I can access the directory, it's a shared directory, I still can't really make changes to that file. Okay. So if I wanted to make changes, I would have to actually be inside my Ubuntu machine making those changes. So if it doesn't let me make those changes, I'll go ahead and close out. I'm just going to double check to make sure that I'm not able to there. And it actually shows up right there. Why did it show up this time? And before it gave me some type of an error message. Well, what I was doing at first was when I clicked file and save, it looked like it wanted for me to replace something that was in there. And you see how it says, do you want to replace it? I'm going to type yes, and it says you don't have permission to open this file, right? I can close out of this, and I can go back to typing run. I can go back to my Samba share right here and click on OK. It's going to open up the file, and if I double click on it, I'll be able to see what I typed in earlier, okay? It's almost as if it doesn't allow me to make changes, but it's still allowing me to make changes because of how I logged in through the Samba credentials. I used my Samba username and my Samba password in order to make changes to that, okay? So likewise, you can also go into your Ubuntu machine and see what was just updated by typing in ls, seeing the file, and typing in the command cat, followed by the file name. And it'll show me exactly what I just typed. Now, the difference is that here, it didn't show me that second, it didn't show me the second line that shows, hello world, welcome to my YouTube channel. I hope you click the like button and subscribe here. So what it's almost as if I need to refresh this, or I need to close out in order for those changes to be made. So let me see if I can do this. I'm going to go ahead and close out, and let's see if it was able to replicate those changes. I'm going to do cat again, followed by the file name, and it still didn't do it, okay? If I type in sudo nano, followed by the file name, I can open it, and I can make changes here. All right, but it looks like I just can't make the changes across the Windows system. So let me see what I can do next. I'm going to type in run. I'm going to click OK to access the Samba share. It opens up the file, and if I double click on it, it shows me the 2 lines of code that I just wrote, right? And this is not code, by the way. This is just sentences that I wrote here. What should happen is it should replicate this data or synchronize this data across the network, okay? So one thing to consider is if it's not synchronizing, now would be a good time to check what's going on. Like, why is this taking so long? You may want to ask yourself, do I have the permission to actually make those changes? Why hasn't it updated over here on this side, right? If I open up Nano, I could see the file, but what I should do is be able to just type in cat followed by the file name, and it still doesn't, right? So this is what I'll do next, is I'll leave this open, and I will restart my Ubuntu machine and see if I can still see the changes after it was restarted. So I'm going to type in sudo shutdown space -r space now. The shutdown -r will restart it, and it's going to restart it now. It's not going to wait for a minute to pass. Okay. So there it is, restarting. And if it doesn't come up, I can always pull it up from my start menu. I'm going to go ahead and give it a few seconds to see if it comes up. And it doesn't look like it's coming up, so I'm going to go ahead and do this. I'm going to type in Ubuntu. Here it is. If I do ls, I could see my Samba share. And if I type in cd Samba share, do ls, I could see my hello.txt document. And if I do cat hello.txt, it still doesn't show me that file, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and leave it here because this is something that I should probably troubleshoot further and say, okay, well, here's the original file, and here's the file that's being shared across the network. Why haven't I seen this, right? And I want to go back to the Windows system just to kind of show you this, that even though I made changes to the file itself here in Windows, If I click File and Save, it's going to ask me if I want to replace it. And when I say yes, it says that I don't have permission. This is exactly why I'm not able to add that second line that said, hello all, welcome to my YouTube channel. Please subscribe or like and subscribe. It's because I don't actually have permission to make those changes on this file, right? So it's worth noting that even though you may have given someone access to the share folder or access to the files within the shared folder, they still don't have permissions to make changes by default. You can go in and give people access to making changes to the file, but it's just not going to bring them over by default, okay? Okay, I wanted to show you something else here. I'm going to go ahead and close out, and I'm going to go ahead and close this, and I'm going to leave my Ubuntu system running, okay? And by the way, I'm going to do ifconfig again, because I will be using the IP address of this machine right here for my next thing that I'm going to show you. I did set up a file share running on Ubuntu, and the service is going to be called Samba or SMB, okay? If I go here and I opened up my Kali Linux machine, this is what it looks like when it's running on the Windows subsystem for Linux, okay? There is a tool within Kali Linux called Metasploit, and Metasploit can take advantage of some vulnerabilities that might be on the Ubuntu machine. And what I want to do is make sure that my Samba share is actually protected, okay? The only way that I can check to see if it's actually protected is by trying to gain access to that Samba share remotely. And if it allows me to go in and allows me to see files and allows me to make changes to those files, I know that it's not protected. But if for some reason I'm trying to access and gain access to that Samba share and it asks me to log in, then I know that I'm being protected. All right, or should I say, I know that there's protection on that share folder. All right, so what I'm going to do next is, from a hacker's point of view, this is what I would do to see if there's something being shared on the Ubuntu system. Okay, there's one of three things that I can do. I can first ping it. I can first run I can also run an nmap scan to see what ports are open. If I see that the SMB service is running, I can also try to use Metasploit and find an exploit for any vulnerabilities that are using Samba. So here's what I'm going to do first. I'm going to first try to ping it. I'm going to do ping 172.21.219.132. And I'm going to do a -C followed by 5, which is a count of 5 pings. It's pinging once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, and 5 times. All right. So I know that it's up and running. How do I know if it's actually running some type of a Samba share? All right. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to type in sudo nmap space -s capital V space -p, and I'm only going to scan like maybe 500 ports right here. So I'll do 1-500. And on this IP address, 172.21.219.132. Okay. The S capital V is for your service versions, and the -P 1 through 500 is going to scan ports 1 through 500 on this IP address. I'm going to type in my password, and I do have to wait just a moment here while my scan runs. This is not going to take a long time because there's only 500 ports that I'm scanning. And there it is. It found port 22 open on the Ubuntu system. It found port 80 open. It found port 139, and it found port 445. And that 139 is running Samba, but also port 445 is being used as well. Okay. All right. So Now that I know that it's running Samba on this Ubuntu machine, the next thing that a hacker would want to do is try to gain access to this thing without a username and password, right? So here's what a hacker would do. If they know that, that Samba is running on the Ubuntu machine, a hacker would do something like this. SMB client space dash capital L on this IP address, 172.21.219.132. And what I'm doing here is I'm going to list any shared directories on this IP address that are using Samba. And do you see how it says SMB client not found? And it can be installed with sudo apt install SMB client. So this comes up because I don't have this app called SMB client installed. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and run this command. Sudo apt install SMB client. It's asking me if I want to continue, so I'm going to type Y. And now that it's installed, I can run that previous command that I did. SMB client space dash capital L space the IP address. And it's asking me for a password right here. I'm going to type in my password. And by the way, let's say, for example, I don't even know the password. I'm just going to hit enter to see if it allows me to list. And it does. So right there, I kind of know, like as a hacker, well, you know what? I didn't even need a password to list any shares, because anything that doesn't have the $ next to it is probably something that's been added to the configuration file of my Samba service. Okay, and this is a folder that I created earlier called Samba Share. It's running on the hard disk, and the comment is called Samba on Ubuntu. So as a hacker, I would know, you know what, there's something being shared on this Ubuntu system, and it's called Samba Share. So the next thing that an attacker would do is try to gain access to that Samba Share. And instead of typing dash capital L, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get rid of the dash capital L. And in the beginning, I'm going to type in / the IP address / Samba Share. Let's see if it allows me to log in. It's asking me for my password, and I'm not going to type a password. And it says connection failed, access denied. This is what should come up when you added protection to Samba. Okay? Because if it allows you to log in with no password, and it shows you the Samba Share, then there's no protection, and basically anybody can get into your Samba server. Okay, so this is a good thing that I see access denied. Okay, what I'm going to do next is I'll see if I can actually supply the password and gain access. So here I'm going to type in a password, and it still says access denied. Well, why did it say access denied? It's because I'm trying to log in with my Kali user, and my Kali user doesn't exist on my Ubuntu system. The only user that exists on my Ubuntu system is user01. Okay, so if I were to try to log in using user01 with my supplied Samba password, it would be able to log me in, and I would be able to see my Samba Share, and I would be able to see what's inside that Samba Share. And right now, what's inside of it is that hello.txt file. Okay, so let me kind of show you something else that a hacker can actually do to try to gain access to the Samba Share. I'm going to open up a tool called Metasploit, and within Metasploit, I'm going to look for an exploit that's going to take advantage of a vulnerability that might exist on my Ubuntu system. So I'm going to type in MSF console. And by the way, if this tool is not installed, I'll install it. So right here, it's running Metasploit. This is what Metasploit looks like. This is just a banner. And I'm going to type in search for something called Samba user map script. And it found an exploit right here called Samba user map script. The rank shows excellent, meaning that it's more than likely going to work. Okay. The only reason this would not work is if this system has been protected with a username and password. All of the updates are there. Everything's been patched. Okay. So let's take a look and see if I actually hardened this system, if I actually protected it to the point where not even Metasploit's exploits are going to work to gain access. Let me go ahead and type this, use 0. And by the way, I'm using 0 because this is the ID of this exploit. I'm going to type in show options. And here there's some options that I could type in. And I see up here that there's no remote hosts on the system that's been set up. Okay. Let me do one thing real quick. Let me first check my notes and make sure I'm doing this correctly. Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and type in set our hosts to 172.21.219.132. And if I show options again, it should show up under the remote host. See, I have my victim's machine in there for this exploit. And all I have to do to try to gain access is to type in the command exploit. And let's see if I actually gain access. And it will not let me gain access to the system using this user map script. So what I can do is I can try to see if I can do something called directory traversal. Directory traversal means I may be able to gain access to some folders within my Ubuntu system and try to work my way through the system so that I can gain access to this Samba share. Okay? Because in reality, the Samba share is located within my root file system. Okay? And all I have to do is do directory traversal, meaning jump from one directory over to another to gain access to the Samba share. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to exit out of this, and I'm going to run Metasploit again by typing in MSF console. And I'm going to search for another exploit called Samba traversal. So I'm going to type in search Samba traversal. And it actually found one right here. All right. The rank does not show excellent. So that usually means that this is not going to work if the system's protected. All right. But I'll be lucky if this does work. So I'm going to type in use 0. And I'm going to show options again. And here I can make two different changes to the options. I can type in my remote host IP address of the Ubuntu machine. And I can also type in the name of the Samba share because I actually I listed it earlier as being Samba share, or the name of the Samba share. I'm going to type in set art hosts to 172.21.219.132. And I'm also going to set SMB share to Samba share. Now, if I type in show options again, those two entries pop up. And all I have to do is type in exploit in order to try to gain access to the system. And if you'll notice here, this is what's interesting about this exploit. It's going to try to open up the root file system right here. You see that? It's called rootfs. So essentially what it's going to try to do, it's going to try to open up the root file system first and then work its way through the file system to gain access to the Samba share. So let's see if this works. And it did not work. You'll notice here auxiliary failed and login failed right here. So this is what I actually wanted it to do. I did not want to be able to access this thing using an exploit within Metasploit because I know for sure that this Samba share is being protected by that username and password. If I had not supplied the username and password earlier by typing in this command, sudo smb passwd space -a followed by my username, if I had not done this, then I would be able to gain access to it remotely without proper authorization to do so. All right, so this is important to learn. If you want to add security to your Samba share, make sure that you're supplying a password to a Samba user. All right. All right, I'll go ahead and stop right here. Let me stop sharing. And before I go, I just want to tell everybody thank you for watching my video, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.